In my recent video about computer brands that no longer exist, the one brand that kept coming up in the comments was Gateway. People said they thought Gateway was unstoppable in the 90s. Some people remembered the stores with stools shaped like tractor seats, painted like cows. Others said how the mighty have fallen, now just a sub-budget brand at Walmart for less than $300. So, I decided to go deeper. This is the full story of Gateway. How a $10,000 loan from a grandmother on a cattle farm turned into one of the biggest computer companies in America, with nearly 25,000 employees, over 300 retail stores, and annual revenue of $9.6 billion. And how it all fell apart until the only place you can find the name Gateway today is on a budget laptop at Walmart for under $300. Ted Waitt was born in 1963 in Sioux City, Iowa, into a family that had been in the cattle business for 4 generations. He was not a great student. He bounced between 2 different colleges before dropping out entirely after visiting a friend who worked at a computer store called Century Systems in Des Moines. Ted got a job there as a salesman, and within 9 months he had learned something important. People would pay thousands of dollars for a computer they had never seen in person, sold to them by a voice on the telephone. That single observation became the foundation of a billion-dollar company. In September of 1985, Ted and his co-worker Mike Hammond started a company called Tepsi Network. They sold add-on hardware and software for Texas Instruments computers through mail order. Their office was the empty upper floor of Ted's father's cattle brokerage on the family farm outside Sioux City. The startup capital was a $10,000 loan, co-signed by Ted's grandmother. In the first 4 months, they made over $100,000 in sales. By 1987, Ted realized the real money was in selling complete computers, not just parts. He and Mike built an IBM-compatible system with 2 floppy drives and a color monitor for $1,995, roughly half the price of what Texas Instruments was charging. They renamed the company Gateway 2000. Sales exploded. Revenue went from $1.5 million in 1987 to $12 million in 1988 to $70 million in 1989 to $275 million in 1990. In just 3 years, Gateway had become one of the fastest growing companies in America. The secret was the value equation. Ted's philosophy was simple. Do not add technology for the sake of adding technology. Give the customer the most powerful computer possible for the lowest price. No fancy research and development department. No industrial designers. Just Ted's gut instinct about what a regular person would want. When asked about his strategy, Ted told Inc. magazine that the first question was always, would I buy it? The advertising was just as unconventional. Instead of hiring an agency, Gateway created its own ads in-house. The very first full-page ad in a computer magazine showed Ted's father's cattle herd with the Sioux City water tower in the background. The tagline was "Computers from Iowa," with a question mark. Who would expect computers from Iowa? The cow-spotted boxes came next, inspired by the Holstein cattle on the Waitt family farm. The branding was brilliant. In an industry full of beige boxes and technical jargon, Gateway looked and felt different, trustworthy, Midwestern, real. In January of 1990, Gateway moved its headquarters from Iowa to North Sioux City, South Dakota, to avoid state income taxes. The company went public in 1993 at $15 a share. Ted's 50% stake was worth more than $800 million. He was 30 years old. By 1997, Gateway had reached $6.3 billion in annual revenue and over $1 billion in profit. Ted Waitt's net worth hit nearly $3 billion. Then Gateway made the decision that would define the second half of its story. In 1996, the company opened the first Gateway Country stores. These were not ordinary computer stores. They were themed like farm landscapes, with cow spots on the walls and stools shaped like tractor seats. The idea was that customers could come in, try out computers, and then place an order to be delivered to their home. At their peak in early 2001, there were over 300 Gateway Country stores across the United States. The stores are said to have inspired Apple to launch its own retail chain that same year. But the stores were expensive to operate and never turned a profit. And in 1998, Gateway made a much bigger mistake. Ted moved the company's headquarters from South Dakota to Poway, California, near San Diego. He brought in a wave of new executives from outside the company. The culture changed almost overnight. In 2007, Ted described it bluntly. He said the new people were much more money-oriented and much more short-term oriented. They never really understood the Gateway culture. Ted stepped down as chief executive at the end of 1999, handing the role to Jeffrey Waitt. Within 13 months, Waitt was out. The dot-com bubble had burst, and Gateway was in free fall. Revenue dropped from $9.6 billion in 1999 to $6.1 billion in 2001. The company lost over $1 billion in a single year. It laid off thousands of workers. It closed international operations. It shuttered call centers and manufacturing plants. Ted came back as chief executive in 2001, but the damage was done. Gateway's share of the American personal computer market fell from 9.3% at the end of 1999 to 6.1%. The company tried to diversify into consumer electronics, selling plasma televisions and digital cameras from its stores. The plasma strategy briefly gave Gateway substantial market share, but the margins were razor thin and it was not sustainable. Gateway's stock, which had traded as high as $80 during the dot-com era, fell to just $3.14 by the end of 2002. In 2002, Gateway made another symbolic decision. It retired the cow spots. The company ditched its most recognizable branding in favor of a sleeker, more corporate image. It was supposed to make Gateway look more sophisticated. Instead, it made Gateway look like every other computer company. Michael Dell later said the problem was simple. He said that the consumer market was always part of Dell's business, but never a very large part. Gateway opened stores but never developed the corporate business. Without enterprise customers, Gateway had no floor under it when the consumer market softened. The final act came in 2004. Gateway acquired eMachines, a budget computer brand, for about $300 million. On paper, Gateway bought eMachines. In reality, eMachines took over Gateway. The eMachines chief executive became the Gateway chief executive. eMachines executives replaced Gateway executives across the company. The headquarters moved to eMachines offices in Irvine, California. And in April 2004, Gateway closed all 188 remaining stores and laid off 2,500 employees. Ted Waitt resigned as chairman in May 2005, ending a 20-year run with the company he had founded on his family's cattle farm. 2 years later, in October 2007, Taiwanese computer maker Acer acquired Gateway for $710 million. When the news broke, the technology website GigaOM wrote that the price tag was quite a come down from the mid-1990s when Gateway and Dell were spoken of in the same breath. Today, the Gateway brand still exists, but only as a label on budget laptops and tablets sold at Walmart, Target, and Amazon. The computers are made by overseas manufacturers with no connection to Sioux City, Iowa. There are no more cow-spotted boxes, no more Gateway country stores, no more phone salespeople building computers to order on a farm in the Midwest. The company that proved you could sell a $3,000 product to someone you had never met using nothing but a phone call and a cow-spotted box is now a sticker on a $250 laptop. Ted Waitt sold over $1 billion in Gateway stock during the dot-com era. He now runs a philanthropic foundation focused on ocean conservation and has been named one of America's 50 most generous philanthropists. Mike Hammond, Gateway's co-founder and the man who trained Ted to sell computers in the first place, passed away in 2015 at the age of 53. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one.